is that the best dose of CIALIS to be taking with men on TRT is CIALIS. Okay, is one of the best drugs, like, known to man. I'm a huge proponent of the use of tadalafil for men that are on TRT for a variety of reasons. I want to break those reasons down. Ultimately, though, I think there's a big discussion about doses to take, right? There's the average kind of 5 milligram a day dose. There's the, sporadic 10 milligram dose. There's, you can dose 15 milligrams at a time. And then there's a sort of forced sex that, may last 36 hours or so, 48 hours potentially. If you're really, really lucky, there's the 20 milligram dose of CIALIS. Now, in the context of TRT, there are many reasons why a drug like CIALIS, which in my opinion is the best PDE5 inhibitor that we have available to us, could successfully, cohesively coincide with a TRT protocol. I want to talk about some of those reasons as well, but ultimately, regarding a daily dose of CIALIS, what's the best daily dose? The safest, the best dose for long-term use for facilitation of hard erections, assuming your protocol is also straight. We'll look at all the studies on it. I'll give you my experience with clients. We'll do some extrapolation, and I'm going to give you my opinion on the best daily dose of CIALIS for guys on TRT. Stick around. Let's do this. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guidance, sexual dysfunction resolution, performance optimization company. Loads of products. The most important things you guys need to know right now are coaching, one-on-one coaching with me. This is to resolve libido and erection issues on TRT or from the use of hair loss drugs. 50% off right now. You'll save thousands of dollars. You can book me in under a minute, livecortex.com. The code is on the screen. The code is in the description. We'll be on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. Huge discount going away soon. Source list. This is any anabolic you can think of. If you need prop, get prop. If you need 20% DHT gel, get that. If you need Proviron, get that. It's 30% off right now, livecortex.com. Lastly, if you need to dial in on Cypionate regarding libido and erections, I created a video course for it to dial you in regarding sexual function on that ester. Get it, livecortex.com or down below. All right, so regarding tadalafil or CIALIS, I'm using them interchangeably. Tadalafil is the name for CIALIS, the drug name. All right, let's look at some studies. This one titled Long-Term Safety and Tolerability of Tadalafil in the Treatment of Erectile Dysfunction. Now, what it looks like is these were dosed daily. So what they ended up doing is they started them at 10 milligrams a day. Okay, and the dose could be increased to 20 milligrams if the patient couldn't achieve satisfactory intercourse, regarding erectile quality. So if they couldn't get good erections on 10 milligrams a day, they bumped it up to 20, or they had to reduce it to 5 milligrams a day if an adverse event or side effect that was persistent or intolerable, judged by the investigator, was present. Generally, they say tadalafil was safe and well tolerated. You had a percentage of people that were reporting side effects. Headache was 15.8%. Dyspepsia was 11.8%. Nasopharyngitis was 11.4%, and back pain 8.2%. Remember, those of us that are seasoned in the use of tadalafil recognize that a lot of the side effects that come about from it just go away. Your body sort of gets used to it, the blood distribution changes, and those sides go away. Ultimately, the conclusion is tadalafil at 5, 10, or 20 milligrams taken as needed up to once daily for 18 to 24 months. Man, this is 2 straight years. Was safe and well tolerated. These findings support the long-term use of tadalafil in the clinical management of erectile dysfunction. Okay, so we got a lot of safety studies on it, and there are others, but I kind of want to shift gears to this interesting thing just to sort of bring this to people's attention. Spontaneous erectile function recovery among young men with erectile dysfunction taking tadalafil or CIALIS 5 milligrams a day, in which they basically said that, some of these guys that have long-standing ED just ran 5 milligrams tadalafil pretty consistently longer term and then got recovery of their erectile function. Now, that might be something that, to think about, that yes, it could aid erectile recovery, when you've had depleted androgens for some time, because you're facilitating blood flow, and the penis ultimately is an organ like anything else. You feed it blood flow, it gets better. Another one, this is a news release based on that study or another study. New study shows men taking CIALIS or tadalafil tablets once daily return to a normal erectile function after incomplete response to as-needed PDE5 inhibitor therapy. I think one of the things that this says is if you're going to run tadalafil, you should just run it every day. Last study we'll discuss, effective long-term administration of tadalafil on arteriosclerosis, prospective cohort study in which they basically concluded the long-term administration of CIALIS or tadalafil 5 milligrams daily reduced arteriosclerosis or inhibited its progression, relieved dysuria, and improved erectile function. In particular, the drug was revealed to be more effective in patients at a high risk of cardiovascular events and those 75 years or older. I mean, in some sense, this is proving and concluding the safety of it, considering it aided cardiovascular function and reduced what is ultimately a pretty terrible prognosis of heart function. It reduced arteriosclerosis. There's other studies, and we've been over this on mortality generally, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. There are brain benefits of the use of CIALIS as well. But here's the real question. If you're going to run daily CIALIS on top of TRT, what's the best dose? Well, let's talk about the recommended dosages. Let's start with 5 milligrams. 5 milligrams CIALIS a day can work wonderfully. You avoid any chance of any longer-term side effects. I think 5 milligrams a day for everybody is completely safe, or I should say most people. However, that assumes that with TRT, your protocol is really dialed in or really close to dialed in. Because it is the case, and I've seen with client work, and you guys have seen it all across the web, that if the protocol's not right, estrogen's too high, DHT isn't high enough, something is imbalanced, even 20 milligrams CIALIS might not give you penetrative sex ability. And that actually happens all the time. Go on the wrong protocol where estrogen's out of whack, it's overbearing and dominating versus DHT, and try running 20 milligrams CIALIS for sex. You're probably still going to have erectile dysfunction, or it's going to go soft in the middle of sex. So again, all the basics that we talk about have to be in place. You know, you've got to have estrogen in your range, in your zone. People have got to experiment to figure that out, but generally shoot for 20 to 35 picograms per milliliter. You've got to have enough DHT. You've got to be converting enough DHT from your hormone protocol. Some people don't with just injections. It's something that I truly believe happens at the tissue level. Right. So again, the use of transdermal DHT, which you can find in Source List, or the use of transscrotal cream, which you can get from your clinic. Those are the kind of things you need to make sure are in place for tadalafil 5 milligrams a day to work well for you. If all those things are in place, 5 milligrams a day should be enough, assuming you don't have like previous degradation of penile tissue from the starvation of particularly DHT for a long period of time. Okay, so that's that. That's that. If you're on a shitty hormone protocol, 5 milligrams not really going to do a whole lot for you. If you're on the right protocol and not previous degradation of the penis via hair loss drugs or starvation of DHT, 5 milligrams a day is going to be sufficient. All right, now I want to talk specifically about 15 milligrams a day. Yeah, 15 milligrams a day of CIALIS. Let's discuss that. In the context of a TRT protocol that is not quite dialed in, as you're trying to dial it in, running many adjustments over many months, running labs, running some of the strategy that we discuss here to help tailor your protocol to you and ultimately dial in 15 milligrams a day of CIALIS after you get over some of the initial side effects of congestion and maybe some lower back pain looks to be safe, at least for the interim, call it 24 months. I think we can look at those studies and make that judgment. Should, if you're close to dialing in on TRT, meaning estrogen's close to range and you've got DHT up there, should be totally adequate for penetrative sex for 48 hours after dosing. I'd call it 36 to 48 hours after dosing, starting from the 4-hour mark after dosing. In the case of running 15, what you ultimately are trying to do is just use it as a crutch in the meantime until you've got the TRT protocol right and you can go down to something reasonable like 5 milligrams a day where there's really no risk of long-term side effects. Now, technically speaking, it hasn't been proven that if one runs 15 milligrams a day just indefinitely of CIALIS for the next 5 years, that it's unhealthy. It's not been proven that it's unhealthy. It's not really been proven that it's good, but if I were to make a judgment on it, it looks like it's not going to kill you. It looks like it would benefit cardiovascular and neurological health, and it looks like so long as your blood pressure doesn't go too low, it is not an unhealthy thing to run 15 milligrams CIALIS a day ongoingly. But you probably want to try to avoid doing that. Let's quick talk about 20 milligrams a day, and then we'll talk about the last one we didn't talk about, which is 10 milligrams a day CIALIS. 20 milligrams a day is the as needed for sex kind of thing. Should last 48 hours, but generally you're not going to get the full rigidity in that 48 hours. You'll probably get it for about 30 something hours, 30 to 36 hours, after which just kind of rapidly decline. 20 milligrams, though, considering we have one study that shows people that worked up to that, although they might have had some side effects, they weren't serious side effects. And for 24 months, that was tolerated in some of them. So, 20 milligrams a day CIALIS, is it safe long term? I think we could say probably would be fine. Again, as long as blood pressure isn't dropping too low and it's not giving you consistent side effects. Also, in the context of a shitty TRT protocol, when you're trying to dial in, and it's an urgent situation in which you have a girlfriend and you're dating and you do need erectile function, 20 every day or every other day, so long as you're looking at your blood and you feel good and blood pressure's not dropping, should be okay in the interim for you to eventually then, or pretty urgently, get your TRT protocol straight so that you don't need the help of a large dose of PD5 inhibitor to have erections. Do I think that ongoingly somebody should run 20 a day? I've had clients that have done that prior to coming to me. I've talked to people that do that, and there are people on the web that have been doing that for years. There's one or two that are prescribed 20 a day from their doctors. Okay? Risky, potentially, probably not. Is it the best case to run 20 milligrams a day CIALIS? I think the answer is no. There's better cases. You can dial your protocol in, drop to a lower dose, right off into the sunset. Let's talk about 10 milligrams a day of CIALIS. We talked about 5, talked about 15, talked about 20, talked about the risks, or tadalafil at some of those doses falling short, as in the case of 5 milligrams a day. But we really haven't discussed 10. 10, if you look at the studies and the ongoing safety of, in some cases, 20 milligrams a day, you look at people that are prescribed 20 milligrams a day, you look at folks on the web that have been prescribed 10 milligrams a day and been running it for more than a half decade and don't have any cardiovascular or otherwise issues, blood pressure issues, but it just helps their erections. You factor in the fact that tadalafil long-term in some studies does aid the recovery of serious erectile dysfunction via just constant blood flow in the penis. And you recognize that 10 is a pretty good dose. And if you're dialed in on TRT or even close to it, if you're close to it, it's going to aid erectile function and you might get away with having good penetrative sex with 10 milligrams a day. But if you're dialed in, you're just going to have the steel rods, boys. 10 milligrams a day of CIALIS is a great middle ground. So where going above which you don't run those risks of the higher doses. Also, you can be sure that so long as the hormones are straight, it's going to give you a positive erectile response, and enough of one where you don't need any higher doses than 10 milligrams a day. Now, whether you're close to dialing in, or fully dialed in, my conclusion on the matter, and looking at all the research and dealing with clients over the years, is that the best dose of CIALIS to be taking with men on TRT is 10 milligrams a day. Not 5 milligrams a day. Not 15, not 20, okay? It's 10 milligrams a day. I do not think, based on my research on the matter over years and real kind of coaching experience, that 10 milligrams a day of CIALIS is detrimental, deleterious, otherwise has long-term negative health consequences. I just do not believe that at this time. Assuming you're a healthy person, you exercise, you work out, and your blood pressure doesn't go too low from 10 milligrams CIALIS a day. And it shouldn't. CIALIS is really not that potent at doing that. In the context of TRT, I wouldn't even think of it as a crutch, right? It's just cardiovascular benefit, neurological benefit, blood flow benefit, and obviously erectile benefit, even if you're fully dialed in, okay? Adding 10 milligrams to tadalafil a day is only going to help you in most cases. The rigidity of what should be already good erections will be either marginally or noticeably better. That's a good thing. Your ability to, at nighttime, again, assuming your hormone protocol is straight, have nocturnal erections, which prevent atrophy of the penis. They prevent penile fibrosis. One of their major points is going to be a lot stronger. That ability will be stronger on 10 milligrams CIALIS a day. Your capacity to have spontaneous random erections throughout the day, which again helps facilitate the health of the junk, the health of the penis, is going to be higher with 10 milligrams a day of CIALIS. So at 10 a day, you get multifold benefits: cardiovascular, neurological, penile health benefits. Okay. For us men, that's really important. You know how significant erectile dysfunction is, like in men over the age of 40? It is fucking prevalent. I've once talked to a woman who said, yeah, all my friends, all my girlfriends, most of their husbands have ED, and they've all just sort of come to recognize that after a certain age, like, none of their dicks work. That should not be the case, dude. Dude, I have 55-year-olds with seal rods. Shouldn't be the case. You just got to get the hormone protocol right. And, maybe the use of 10 milligrams Cialis a day. So looking at all the literature, looking at, all the history I have in coaching people, most of whom have had erectile issues when they came to me, and that was like part of the issue we had to resolve, that and libido. Using Cialis myself, studying all the literature, my opinion right now is that the best daily dose of Cialis under the conditions I described in this video is 10 milligrams a day. Now, look, there are many instances in which you might want to run Cialis, right? And one of them is where you're having erectile issues. But the other thing to do in that case, especially if you have the budget, is to hire a professional. I mean, look, this is what I do. Coaching right now is 50% off. This is full protocol architecture. I'm not just by your side telling you, hey, do this, do that. I'm designing everything. If you want to recover libido, erectile quality, sensation, climax, the whole system, this is what I do. You've got people that are specialists in programming, specialists in marketing, specialists in house building. And then you have the ultra expert in all of those industries that everybody goes to, and they'll do a good job. Regarding sexual function on TRT, HRT, cycles, post-using hair loss drugs, I'm the industry expert. I'm sought out all around the world because I get results, and that's what I'm focused on. Right now, you can hire me for a one-on-one package, a 1 month, a 3 month, a 6 month, or a 1 year. Those of you thinking about doing the year, it's 50% off. Everything right now is half off. Use the code COACHDISCOUNT. It saves you thousands of dollars. And the stuff you've been wanting to book with me, you can now book with me. We're on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. And then, brother, we start. livecortex.com. Look, if you need to go and grab everything you need, sometimes you need to circumvent your clinic, go around them. The clinic doesn't have Masteron. They don't have Proviron. They're not going to have 20% DHT gel. Nobody has that. However, SourceList does. So grab SourceList for the stuff that you might need, especially if you want to experiment. It's awesome and fun. It's also 30% off. Code's on the screen. Source 30 down in the description of this video. If you need to dial in on Cypionate, I created a video course on dialing in on testosterone Cypionate for libido and erections. It's right in front of the screen and down in the description of this video. Importantly, though, 9 slots left at 50% off coaching. Go book. Well, all right. Brother. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you guys are having a great week. Much more content coming soon. Please do me 2 favors. Like the video. It honestly makes a huge difference to YouTube and the algorithm side. Really appreciate if you just take a second to hit the like button. Do it. Just do it. Actually, do it. Sub to the channel. I'd love to have you on board. One of the fastest growing TRT communities on the internet. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. Enjoy the rest of your day. And boys, I'll talk to you in the next one.